So, Michelle, you write about how the Christian right is in decline, and you say it's taking America with it. You quote the chief executive of the Public Religion Research Institute about how white evangelicals once saw themselves as the owners of mainstream American culture and morality and values. Now they're just another subculture. And, Michelle, you write in part this, From this fact derives much of our country's cultural conflict. It helps explain not just the rise of Donald Trump, but also the growth of QAnon and even the escalating conflagration over critical race theory. It's hard to overstate the strength of this feeling among white evangelicals in particular of America being a white Christian country. The feeling that it's slipping away has created an atmosphere of rage, resentment, and paranoia.
Yeah, you know, Michelle, so again, I said as a Southern Baptist, we have a lot of Protestants, white Protestants, that went through the 1960s. We grew up with our parents feeling like they'd been besieged by all the radical images that were coming across television, Chicago 68, Woodstock, fill in the blanks. But at the same time, you would go to church on Sunday. It was mainstream, and evangelicals, the churches were growing, and we always would look at sort of like the mainline Protestant denominations and say, well, their numbers aren't growing as much because it's lukewarm. But you look at the numbers that you cite here and other numbers, and you look at the decline in the number of people who self-identify as evangelicals now, and it really is a pretty rapid decline. And I've got to believe in large part because it has become so affiliated with politics, and particularly Donald Trump, a very divisive figure, especially for younger Americans.
Well, so this sort of downward slope precedes Donald Trump. And I think that there's a chicken and egg dynamic, right? It's sort of symbiotic. You had evangelicals were losing the younger generation. You know, I wrote a book about the religious right in 2006 at a time when they were feeling triumphant. They had one of their own in the White House. Their churches were, sort of bursting and vibrant. They, would sort of boast that they were going to outbreed godless liberals. And then what you saw is that the younger generation, that they rose up thinking that this generation was going to march through our institutions and take them over. Some of them stuck to that path, but many of them didn't. And they stopped being able to win over new converts. It was around 2013 that for the first time, the religious nuns, the people with no religious affiliation, became the single largest religious group in the United States. And last year, and this has got to really sting for evangelicals, mainline Protestants, mainline Protestants became a bigger proportion of the population than white evangelicals. And so I think there's two things happening. They're declining. As they decline, they become more hard-edged. They become more attracted to these really angry reactionary politics. And then that angry reactionary politics leads them to shrink more and repels young people even more.
Now, what's so interesting is when I first got into Congress in 95, I'd have a lot of young people come work for me. The religious right helped me get elected in 94. In 95, they'd come. And I'd always ask the question, well, why do you want to work in a congressman's office? What do you want to do in Capitol Hill? And you would get a lot of, if they were from evangelical churches, you would get a lot of traditional, it'd be about abortion, it would be about family, it would be about the sort of things that you would expect in 1995. By the time I left in 2001, they were still coming in. A lot of them, and I've been telling this story for like years, a lot of them would come in Birkenstocks. And it was about AIDS in Africa. It was about hunger. It was about global poverty. And I would go into church groups and I would say, you want to know what the future of your church is? And then I would explain this transformation over 6 years. And you also saw it with George W. Bush, this obsession with doing something to save the lives of people in Africa, AIDS in Africa. There was a very evangelical issue, something that evangelicals really focused on. And you had that change. So, of course, I guess that's why I'm not so surprised that this hard edge is turning off so many younger Americans who might be naturally joining the church.
Right. I think you had a lot of evangelicals who wanted to do something about global poverty, who were not so attracted to this hard-edged anti-gay message, who were, like a lot of young people were idealistic. And something interesting I've seen in response to my article, I've seen some threads online from people who actually were reared in these evangelical homeschooling communities that really were preparing people to sort of go on this long march through the institutions. And some of the young people who've broken away from that path, in some ways, it was their very rigorous homeschooling education that gave them the tools to look at this Christian nationalist theology, to look at these anti-rationalist and often just quite, kind of sadistic politics, and to say that, and to be able to turn their back on it, to be able to get some distance on it.
Yeah. All right, Michelle Goldberg, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being with us. Please come back soon. And, Mika, even in 2005, when we were going over, our church was going over every day to Mississippi and Louisiana for aid and relief. After Hurricane Katrina, yep. I would go on TV every night and complain about the fact that the government wasn't there, that FEMA wasn't there, that the feds weren't there, that nobody seemed to be there other than a lot of evangelical relief organizations. And there were young evangelicals all over the region, providing food, providing water. There were some people from different evangelical universities. Pat Robertson's university were down there as well. That was actually a large growing part of that evangelical movement, and what George W. Bush did, and you look at like Financial Times estimates that he saved perhaps 13 million lives in Africa, because that's right, was the obsession for so many evangelicals. It's sad to see how that's changed over the past decade.
They're not conservative either.